Hey YouTubers, today I'm going to review X-Men, directed by Bryan Singer. Now, the first X-Men movie was the first movie that really made comic book movies popular. Like, yeah, you had Blade, but comic book movies just weren't popular in the 90s. So when they made X-Men, they wanted to be a more, serious movie and not like those movies in the 90s, like, what is that movie called? Howard the Duck. And don't ask, it's not a good movie. Now this movie is basically about, of course, the plot is very simple. Now basically, it basically follows Rogue, who basically has this ability when she can basically drain your life force and all that crap. Anyway, she just basically discovers that she's a mutant. She goes from place to place. Because before she was a mutant, she said she wanted to travel around the world. But then she eventually got to do that. Finally saw Wolverine in as a cage fighter. And they eventually get saved by the X-Men because the Brotherhood wants Rogue's powers. So you can basically turn every human into a mutant, but it's unstable. And basically the X-Gene would actually kill a human. That's basically the whole plot. And eventually Wolverine joins the X-Men, accepts who he is. And by the end of it, he leaves to figure out who he is and all that stuff. Yeah, the plot is basically simplistic. But it has a good cast like Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry. Oh yeah, and James Marsden's in it. And yeah, I know it's crazy because when I said, wait, James Marsden, the guy who does comedies, the guy who was in The Nanny, is Cyclops. Now that I realize it, it's just kind of weird. Because when I didn't know who he is, I was like, why does this actor look so familiar? So yeah, it is a simple plot. I still like it. I still think it's a good X-Men movie. Just not as good as X-Men 2. Not as much action. Like the Wolverine versus Sabretooth fight wasn't really interesting. Sorry, I had stuff in my eye. Okay, yeah. Like I said, the Wolverine versus Sabretooth fight, it's not as interesting. I know action in superhero movies have gotten a lot better. Just watch Captain America, the Winter Soldier. He's basically kicking everybody's butt in that movie. In such a cool action. But this one is fine. You see Wolverine use his claws, jump on Sabretooth. Yeah. Let's talk about Sabretooth in this movie. He sucks. I don't like X-Men Origins, but I feel like they did Sabretooth way better in that movie. He he showed emotion and all that stuff. All Sabretooth said in the movie is he's with them. And basically that's basically all he says. Sabretooth is like an afterthought in this movie. Yeah. That's a lot of characters. Like Toad. He's like a mutant, looks like a frog. He's unnecessary too. And I just saying they just get defeated so easily. It's just like, seriously? That easily? I mean, Toad got struck by lightning, but there is one good scene about it when Halle Berry Storm says, "You know what happens to a toad that gets struck by lightning? Same thing that happens to everything else." That was a good line. It was so cool. I feel like you could have said that kind of line now because it would be kind of corny. I still like it though. And another scene when he says, "What would you prefer, yellow spandex?" I actually would prefer yellow spandex. At least it would have the comic costumes. That's my problem with these X-Men movies by Bryan Singer. It just everybody. They never wear their comic costumes. Wolverine never wears a mask, or all the other ones. Yeah, I mean, I know Wolverine doesn't have a secret identity, but he likes wearing a costume. That's why you see him wearing a costume in every media. That's why he wore a costume in Wolverine and the X-Men. Just they actually had a deleted scene in the Wolverine movie from 2013. He the girl Yu-Gi-Oh gave him a box and it had a comic book costume in. He never wore it. So people assumed that he was going to wear a costume in X-Men Days of Future Past. That never happened because people are stupid. They just, whenever we want something fun, they take that away from us. Yeah. Now, Hugh Jackman is always good as Wolverine. But only thing I can say about these X-Men movies that I don't like, Wolverine's always the central focus. Yeah, I mean, he's not the only one that's interesting, people. You can make an X-Men movie with not Hugh Jackman. I just want an X-Men movie without Hugh Wolverine cameos. I just want an X-Men movie that's just about the X-Men. It's not about Wolverine. Wolverine the X-Men, okay. That was about a show about him being the leader. But I know people really like Wolverine, but I don't like that they keep making him the main character. Wolverine's not the only character that's interesting. It just gets annoying. Just make an X-Men movie. Stop making Wolverine as the central focus. It's tiring. He's not the only character who was memorable. Heck, when X-Men first appeared, when the first X-Men first created in the 60s, it wasn't Wolverine. Wolverine didn't join the X-Men until 1970. Wolverine didn't join the X-Men until 1975. How many years after their creation? $12 years. Wolverine didn't join the X-Men until 12 years after the X-Men were created. Have mercy. And the X-Men movies X-Men comic books were still making stuff. So, I mean, even though I like Wolverine, I just want them to stop making him the central focus of every X-Men movie. Unless it's his movie when he's supposed to be the central focus. Yeah. But I was just saying, if they ever do Wolverine in the MCU, introduce him maybe in the She-Hulk show. That's just my opinion. Because he first appeared in a Hulk comic book. Because he was hired to kill the Hulk. But, you know, him and the Hulk both have a healing factor. Both can't die. Allegedly. Because Wolverine probably has seemingly died multiple times. And he died and stayed dead one time in the comics. I know. Can't stop mentioning the comic books. But everything's based on a comic book now. So let's talk about Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Another perfect casting in this movie. He just makes Professor X just so interesting. He's loving but firm. That's what I can say about him. Loving but firm. Like, he's not afraid to do stuff, crazy stuff in this movie. Yeah, but basically, even though I like Patrick Stewart and he's really in these X-Men movies, he wasn't really in the first one. He was, but, you know, from half hour towards the end of this movie, he was in a coma while they had to fight Magneto and all that stuff. So yeah, I would prefer yellow spandex. Everything else is pretty comic accurate, like the Blackbird jet. It's pretty cool how it comes out of the courtyard and basically flies off. I don't care for Rogue. And yes, I know I like Rogue in the X-Men animated series. I just don't like Rogue in this movie. He just doesn't really do anything. Not really. Then we have cameo of Iceman in this movie. And before I say this, when you watch these X-Men movies, every movie they're always recasting Kitty Pryde. Have mercy. Why is they always recasting that girl? Have mercy. Okay, yeah. We see a lot of cameos from X-Men characters in this movie. Sorry, a lot of mucus keep coming to my eye. Yeah, but anyway, you see a lot of cameos from X-Men comics and stuff. Yeah. And now, all I can say is, the CG, it still holds up. Like, if you watch X-Men Origins Wolverine, that movie came out, years after the first X-Men movie. But that movie looks dated, and that only came out 12 years ago. This is a movie that came out 21 years ago. It still holds up, and that's a good thing. The action is okay. And Ian McKellen is Magneto. Holy crap, that guy's good as Magneto. He's just such a cool villain. And just like Wolverine, I feel like they make him the only good villain. Like, literally, every other villain that you've done other than Magneto is forgettable and sucks. Anyone remember Sebastian Shaw from X-Men First Class? No, I didn't think so. Because he's just so forgettable. Every other villain, him, Sebastian Shaw, Apocalypse, the Dark Phoenix people, the Dark Phoenix. It's like every villain in these movies, other than Magneto, sucks. Yeah. And I feel like Magneto's costume is bad too. This is a good movie, but the costume choices have mercy. It's like the person who wrote the script for this movie definitely never read an X-Men comic book, so didn't even wear their costumes. I want them to have their comic costume because it gives them individuality. If they have the same costumes, they're just not unique. Because Wolverine and Cyclops just have the exact same costume. Only difference between Storm and Jean Grey's costume is Storm basically has this cape thingy. And Jean Grey doesn't. And it's just, the ending is just so anticlimactic. It was just such an easy thing to do. Like, literally, all Storm has to do is levitate Wolverine. And all Cyclops had to do was blast Magneto. So, Wolverine could break the machine. But here's one cool scene about that Sabretooth Wolverine fight. I like when he said, "Hey, bub, I'm not finished with you yet." He just crashed through the Statue of Liberty. That was cool. Yeah. But I'm just saying, they get taken out too easily. The villains, Toad gets electrocuted. Mystique gets stabbed by Wolverine. And of course she's okay because Mystique, kind of like Wolverine, she has a healing factor, but not like his. Mystique is old as dirt, people. And another thing, this is a spoiler too, but how come in any of the movies have they said, oh, Mystique's son is Nightcrawler? Yes, Mystique's son is Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is Mystique's son. He don't know that yet. And he never will. Because this version of Mystique is not like Mystique from the comics when she's been alive since like the 1800s. Yikes, I know. And all that crap. And now we have X-Men First Class, and I kept saying, what? Wow, goodness. Seriously? Not even gonna mention that Nightcrawler's her son? No? Okay. Sorry to keep blabbing on. It's just trying to think. There's a lot of good scenes in the movie. When Wolverine first sees Wolverine's claws, and he was going to put his claws in the guy's throat and slashes the guy's gun. That's kind of cool. Kind of shows that, yeah, Wolverine is a beast. And the cage fight was so funny because he basically said, the Nazi guy said, whatever you do, don't hit him in the balls. He said, I thought anything goes, but he'll take it personally. And here's another thing that I kind of wonder about this movie. In this, Wolverine's bones are made of adamantium. Everybody knows that. But when Wolverine punches somebody, you hear the clink of metal. What? Wolverine's not supposed to feel the metal. Like, the thing is, Wolverine, he doesn't really know it's there. I mean, he knows he has a healing factor. He can see his claws are adamantium. I'm just saying he doesn't feel the heaviness of the metal. Yeah. But, I mean, just hearing the metal sound, it's kind of weird. And when he hit him in the neck, it's like, ding, ding, ding. Hear the clicking of metal. I don't know why they did that, but that's kind of weird. And it kind of reminds me of the first Spider-Man movie. When he says, I didn't sign up for a cage match. And basically beats the crap out of the wrestler guy or something. Yeah. So all I can say is this is a good X-Men movie. Not as good as X-Men 2. It's really not. But all in all, I think it is an interesting movie. I'll give it like a B. Like, it is good. I say check it out. Check out the first X-Men movie. But don't expect it to be as good as X-Men 2. Or the action to actually hold up. And not to now, anyone that didn't grow up with this movie will find it corny. I didn't grow up in this movie, but I still like it. And I'm just a sucker for everything X-Men, okay? And I'm not saying because it's X-Men I love it. I hate Dark Phoenix, people. That is a bad, bad movie. And X-Men Apocalypse, it's watchable, but Apocalypse, dang, he's a terrible villain. My goodness, he's usually cool in the comics. And that X-Men cartoon. And X-Men Evolution. Dang, I liked him in X-Men Evolution. That was very cool. He showed everybody to his 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse. Yeah. And that movie actually messed up Archangel. Yeah, that guy's a cool villain. Yeah. But anyway, I say watch it. Okay. Yeah, that's basically all I have to say. Bye.